I started this series of paintings right at the beginning of 2015. I started off painting over another painting. So I was actually thinking, okay, I have all these canvases I don't like. I don't ever want to show them. And I started off with black gesso. And I like making different facial features and so on, different faces. And so I covered the canvas with all these different faces in black gesso. Different eyes, different noses, different mouths, different directions they were looking. And then I decided on 3 faces that I liked. And I started painting in around them and just left those 3 on the canvas. And when I looked at those faces, I started having thoughts about who they were, what they were doing, how I felt about them, did I like them, did I not like them, those kinds of things. And they started taking on a life of their own. It was like I've heard many writers say, I start a novel, I have some characters, and the characters take over, and they write the novel. It was kind of like that. And so when I was finished that particular painting, I had 3 women sitting at a table in London where I had been for tea, and they were at the Ritz Hotel having tea together. And I don't know, maybe somebody they were talking about had walked in the room, and they all looked. And anyway, so that was the beginning. I just sort of thought, wow, I really enjoyed that process. And so I actually went through that process for every single one of the paintings in this room. Not exactly. The only one that I didn't paint over another canvas was the last one, the very biggest one, which is Friday Night at Swans. And that one, the canvas was given to me by Tony Thorne, who died last year and made an enormous contribution to the art gallery. He gave that canvas to me and said, Kenna, I think you could probably do a good painting on this. And I'd been holding on to it for all that time. And all of a sudden, just before this show started, I decided to paint that one. But I used the same process. I did a wash on there that was kind of browny red so that I wasn't starting with a white canvas. Then I started painting in a picture. Very quickly, I realized they were dancers, and I started building in Friday night dancing at Swans, which I've done many, many times. So all of these paintings are reminiscent of experiences that I've had. So Tango by the Bay is about tango every summer at Maple Bay that some friends of mine have. Another one's called, let me see, The New Wife Goes to the Opera. And that's about some people that sat next to me at the opera, and she was a new wife coming to the opera, feeling awkward and so on. I mean, today she's not, but at that time she was. And another is Colorful Ladies at the Opera. So each one of these paintings actually represents an experience that I've had that's come out of the faces that I put on the canvas. They went, oh, I know who that is. I know what's going on there. And I then started building that memory on the canvas. And that's the process that I went through. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was so much fun. And I might continue doing that for a while. But one of the other things that's happened out of this series is that I've had a number of people come to me and ask me to do portraits. Because, they know that these faces do not represent the individual that I'm actually painting. They have an essence of that individual, but they don't, I'm not trying to make it look like them. The one that says Circle of Friends is actually my book club. All of those people recognize themselves, but they know it doesn't look like them. It's got an essence of them that they recognize instantly. So the people who have said that they want to have portraits done, I think that they're looking for something that doesn't try to represent anything that might have been in a photograph or a beautiful picture of them at a certain age or any of that. They want something that's kind of an essence, something that glows through them somehow, talking about their personality or something like in the book club, for instance, there are people there who are not as happy as others or a little reticent, and they recognize that in themselves in those paintings, which is really cool. I'm really happy that that's happened. Another thing that's come out of this series is some people who are painters who have been trying to work from photographs and have found, especially trying to do the human form, it's so lacking in energy when you try and copy something. So here they are holding up a picture and trying to put on canvas what they see. Well, you lose the essence, the energy of that individual. And so they'd like me to help mentor them, not necessarily using my method, but something that allows them to loosen up, to not feel like they have to be so representative. And so that feels good, that people recognize that that has some value. So it's been a good exercise. I've just loved it. It's been really good for me.
Okay, from all the paintings in the series, which one is your favorite one?
Well, there are three that I like a lot. The most recent one that I did, the Friday Night at Swans, I really like that. I really like it because it feels like what it felt for me to be at Swans. But another favorite is the one that I did of the Johnson Street Parkade, and mainly it came out of the city requesting artists have input to improving the, I don't know what you'd call it, the streetscape, the parkade in general, how it feels to the city, to make it more accessible. And after that whole process was over, I thought, well, what would the Johnson Street Parkade look like if it was more inviting? How would it look? So I started off, it was just sort of something to do. It was just a little exercise. It wasn't a serious thing. And in this case, I didn't let the figures that I'd put on the page talk to me. It was more like I was more in control of that process. So I started off thinking, okay, what does the Johnson Street Parkade look like? What would it look like if people used it more, or people used that street more? Because that street is a really awful, dead zone, awful place. And so I did that little center panel first with the people on it. And it didn't seem to say enough. So I went and bought another panel, and I put it up above, and I took that up further to include the parkade facade, whatever you call it, and put trees in and so on. And then I felt that it needed more, so I added another panel. So it ended up being kind of a triptych, but it wasn't intentional. It was a case of me needing to say more on that subject. So it ended up growing, and there wasn't enough canvas where I started, so it ended up being 3 pieces. And the place that I get my work framed, they had to really work to get those 3 things together because they were not meant to be together. They went to a lot of trouble to make that work for me, so I really appreciated that because I liked the end. I did like the end, and I think it looks good with the black in between. It sort of represents the 3 different areas of the streetscape that are important. So yeah, that was kind of a fun exercise. It was different, a little different than the rest of it, so it was more of an experiment. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. But the final one, I kind of like that dance one a lot. It has a lot of depth to it that I like. So maybe that one too. Both of them. They're just different. It was there. This whole thing was fun. I could talk about every single one of these paintings because they all had, like the one, Tango by the Bay. That one, my grandson came over and he said, I really want to get into art again. When I was in grade school, I used to do art and I got out of it because it wasn't cool. He said, how do you do your paintings? So I went and got a canvas in its frame that I knew I would never show. And I said, do you want to see how I do it? And he had just finished dinner with me, and I took that painting in its frame, and I turned it upside down on the easel. I got my gesso and a big brush, and I started painting a new scene. And by the time he left, it was all pretty well there. I mean, I spent time on it after that, but he could see the process, how he couldn't believe it. Really? It's that easy? It was fun. And it turned out to be a neat painting. I like it. So, you know, you can actually see around the edges of the frame where I went in with new color, and I don't go to the frame because I didn't want to make a mess of the frame. So you can see the other painting underneath. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. So each painting has a story like that. It was great fun. This whole series was just a lot of fun. Because it was all done for me, as opposed to, oh, we're doing our winter show. Could you do, you know, maybe 3 or 4 paintings, 14 by 18, or, you know, we would really like winter scenes. And, you know, it just wasn't like that at all. It was all for me, and I just had a good time. Mm-hmm.